Welcome to another match analysis video. Today we're playing on Fool's Road AAS V1 and I'm just doing another locked 2-man clan command squad. The reason I've been doing this quite often is because my mic has been sketchy as hell in squad lately, and pretty much during the entire staging phase I cannot be understood in squad chat or command chat, at least a lot of the time. So I'm getting a little bit annoyed. I'm trying to troubleshoot it, trying to fix it, but meanwhile I am absolutely not leading any blueberries. And honestly, I don't even have much desire to lead a significant number of people when I constantly have to be talking in Discord in order to be understood, which then clutters comms for anyone else in my clan who might be leading another squad, like Sniffles is doing here. So for this match, we're just going to have 2-man command and 1 full infantry squad to try to do what we can. Hold off a sec, I want to see if anyone else goes for it. We have a bunch of infantry squads. If 6 goes for it, we're not going to grab one.
With all the logic supplies.
Grab a tiger. Let's just handle backcaps real quick.
Or you can get the good one.
Yeah, go for it.
Don't approve any of those logies.
I'll do the first 2 backcaps. If everyone else wants to go up to Ammo Hill and beyond.
I was just messing with the supply.
Reinforcing their hand.
Just let me know
18s.
where you want me to go, man.
Hello.
No, 24, 600.
Hey,
Or
Captain.
624.
Yeah, what's up?
It's optimal. 624.
I'm just making sure you can hear me.
Let's be honest, Cap.
Just grab a Logi 6 and head towards Ammo Hill anywhere you want to go. There's a couple of good fob locations that could be built. You can go just off this road here, it's pretty decent. So on this layer, our second flag is definitely rushable by the enemy team, but we can beat them there pretty easily. So whenever that's the case, I'll usually just go for a minimalist approach and try to get a stealth capper there. I know a lot of fantastic stealth cap locations on that flag, so I'm not too worried about handling the back caps alone. A lot of teams will send a full squad to the second cap for both teams on this layer because of the rush ability, but honestly, I trust my ability to stealth it. So I'm trying to take it from the rest of the team and make sure that everybody else goes towards the mid. That actually isn't the best strategy on Fool's Road. There's a lot of intricacies to this map for where fobs should be going in the early game, but at the very least it is a decently solid foundation that is very easy to communicate to your average team, so that's what I'm shooting for. But as is tradition, I do not succeed, and a full squad puts their move mark there and starts heading there. It's not the end of the world, it's not so terribly out of position, and there always is that chance that I get rushed and killed while stealthing, so I don't really try to fight it too much, but it is a little bit annoying.
What are you doing?
I can't succeed in taking backcaps and not having a full squad go there, but it's okay, it's
I
still
had
decent.
that like 2 matches ago. I repeated the same thing to the squad like 4 times in a row. He wouldn't listen.
I don't think people's trust is stealth cap a lot of the time.
You
Train
can
does
kick
get
him.
rushed.
Have you tried kicking him?
Watch me, dude. Bro, come on now.
This guy doesn't have YouTube Premium.
Exactly, bad cat.
Imagine paying for YouTube.
Imagine fucking paying for YouTube Premium. That shit's
Imagine giving Google money.
That's a scam.
Oh, going somewhere.
Yeah, you have been scammed. You have YouTube Premium. Fight.
7 days a week.
Hey, can we get some kind of like Russian rap music or something going?
Literally, Zoomers go to war.
As long as they zoom
I
fast.
wish I had a soundboard, but I
They didn't.
cannot play the Soviet national anthem.
Zoomers are anything fast.
Oh god.
How does it feel to be in the greatest generation, Cap? Born
You
in
hear
the
the trap they're
1800s.
playing.
What?
These are your crowd.
I'm a millennial.
Semantics.
Actually, am I a Zoomer? I'm Gen like Y. Sniffles, you're like 20-ish, right?
He's probably busy.
Whoa, 3 levels of zoom. Crazy. What is this? Fucking 21st century or something? 3 levels of zoom?
I thought I could deploy rallies with people in VIX. Maybe that's just Logi trucks. I don't know. Hop out for a sec though. Viking.
Oh, that sounds fun. Squad 5 got eaten up. MRAP? How does a scout car lose an MRAP?
It's a good question.
It's probably passing by though. I'll keep one eye on the screen.
You can drive onto the road if you want to intercept it.
And lose our tiger? Fuck no.
Holy shit, look at 6.
Stupid idea. They're going deep. Jesus, they're going to fortress. Holy shit. Oh, I see the MRAP. It's the crows.
Shoot the gunner in the back seat. Right side. Damn it,
Oh my
what?
god,
You're supposed to shoot the gunner out.
oh, the MRAP. It's a crows.
Yeah, you can shoot the gunner out. Back seat. That's what he just did to you.
I didn't know that. Yeah, go hide.
I am hiding.
I thought it was all bulletproof.
Nope. I need a Tap V Scout or Tap V MRAP, Tiger, those types of vehicles. Not a scout car, but those types of vehicles you can shoot out passengers, so you always want to aim for gunner. He's usually in the back seat.
Back right? Okay.
I can't remember exactly, but... So obviously my mind went to stealth cap once we started getting pushed by that MRAP. That's why I went up into the rafters. I did kind of expose myself to the road and you caught a glimpse of the vehicle for a split second, but then I immediately went prone. That way if they come inside, they're going to have a hard time seeing me, and they can't see me from outside. Just needed to finish the last of the cap. This is what I mean by stealth capping. Meanwhile, you're going to see this MRAP zoom around this road and go completely annihilate everybody who was on train. So ironically, it's still going to end up being us stealth capping train, only difference being that we're going to have to respawn to do it. So I don't see that yet. I'm picking up butt. And once we do see it, we immediately need to get a spawner there on the hab since we lost our vehicle. And the quickest way to do that isn't to have both of us respawn, but to have one of us TK the other.
Nobody's capping train.
I'm gonna kill you. Spawn at train.
What?
Spawn at train. While Bud is respawning, I'm half expecting that fob to get proxied, since I think there were dismounts from the MRAP after they killed everyone, so I'm just gonna start hauling ass over there so I can cap it on foot if need be. I'll spawn train. Skipping ahead a bit, the squad that got wiped there starts respawning there as well, but respawns, it's immediately super hot. Sniffles is still working on the midpoint, so I'm letting him know what's going on. And meanwhile, I've just opted to respawn so I can grab a Logi when one spawns. The full squad that went train got wiped. I'm trying to spawn there and recap. Are you in range?
Oh, we're capping.
It's proxied, so hide your
80%.
ass.
I can come down there right down with the Logi if need be.
We'll see if Butt dies. So this should go to show why I believe in a disproportionate response to rushes. You can still stealth cap it with a handful of people, and we could have handled both these objectives just fine, even if that full 9-man squad didn't go there, just by dropping one at the first flag and one at the second flag and getting into stealth cap positions. We still basically ended up doing that with the first flag anyway. Okay, try to die now. I'm gonna need you up main. So the entire time I was on mine, I was watching the midpoint. Once we had to redirect a train, I was focused on that for a bit, but now my attention is back up there. We got a really good spawn network early game. We got the south fob, which is always pretty decent if it gets there alive, and we had a truck go around for the north fob, which was a really good move. I'm not entirely sure if it was Sniffles or if it was Squad 5, since I saw them both there at the same time when I looked north. I'm actually asking Sniffles right now in Discord, so I'll post it up here in text if I figure out who it was. But regardless, it was a fantastic play, and we do have the midpoint basically surrounded with fobs fairly early game. Now, the downside is that they appear to have some kind of internal fob or something very close to the flag, and they are pushing down south. So it is losing sustainability, but at the very least, we have control of cap range, and it's looking like we're going to full cap it. So Sniffles makes the, I think, good call to push on to offense afterwards, assuming it will be a full cap, and probably assuming that Fortress will be abandoned, since traditionally, on a lot of different layers, it would be. The likelihood is slightly smaller on Fool's Road, since it's pretty common for a full squad to go there off game start and then fail to react to the mid, or in this instance, see that the mid is being lost and choose to stay there. So the likelihood of a squad being on Fortress is higher than average, but you still always want to have an offense immediately ready the moment that flag is capable in case you can get lucky and walk onto an uncontested flag. Now, because Sniffles is going on to offense, I'm going to follow a traditional kind of leapfrog pattern and cover defense. Even though I'm just a two-man squad, that's going to be my first priority for fob building, especially since it looks like we're in a bit of a 1v1 situation when it comes to spawns, which isn't ideal. So I want to go reinforce our defense and make sure it's more sustainable to buy Sniffles more time on offense.
Good to go.
What do we think our odds are of hitting mine or MRAP? I'm going to go with around
Mine?
60%. 40% mine, right?
Mine,
20%
no.
MRAP.
I'm going with 10% mine, 10% MRAP. All of them probably on the east. Or on the west. It is north lane, so I don't know. Probably be fine.
Fucking north lane.
I don't see shit.
So on Fool's Road, I like to go up this mountain to my right here. There's one particular place I like to climb at that's decently fast, and then I can build an east ammo hill fob, but I miss my turn and then immediately after get shot by rockets, so that forces my hand in the next decisions I'm making. Get fucked, son.
Why play spooky horror games when you just play squad?
Haha, get fucked, son. We're fine.
Are we okay?
Yeah.
Was that a heat round?
We mark it for the rest of the team.
Oh, okay. Maybe I should. I'm gonna. Okay.
He's missing. Oh, he hit me.
Oh,
Damn
he
it.
didn't miss you. Oh, yeah. Fine. No, there are more of them. Are you bleeding? Are you good?
Yeah, quite heavily.
Quite heavily good.
Quite heavily bleeding.
I'm out.
Up quick. I'll try to watch your back, but you want to get low inside that as soon as it's actually solid cover. So I actually contemplated just going straight up that road like I did initially, but the reason I decided against it was because of the people who were pushing our south fob. We're basically building almost right on top of where our fob just went down, which means there's likely still scattered contact around, which we just took fire by. I thought I might be able to get past them like I did here, if it's just one or two, but I didn't want to risk getting headshot out immediately, or the fob immediately falling after I build it, since I don't actually have control of any infantry to have them spawn here. That's why I didn't prioritize going here, and I only went here as a result of taking fire on that main road. Funny enough, I think somebody thinks they could have built a hab on the point because they start yelling at me. Full build it, then hop back and truck with me.
Who the fuck built the fob way down there when we could have built that shit up here?
Maybe he was thinking stretch the hab up closer to the point, but that's pretty much directly on top of where the enemies are spawning. So I really don't know what's going on in this guy's mind, and I'm trying to ask people in Discord if anyone knows what he's talking about, but regardless, one of the biggest downsides to running this two-man fob building type squad is that I can't force people to spawn here. I could have asked the rest of my team, but I didn't think to because I was busy trying to get the truck out, and ultimately, I just built this in line of sight of the enemy. It can still be a great spawn if people use it to either spawn in and push north towards the enemy hab, or just use it as a distraction to block against the south infantry that will likely come back to the flag, but if it doesn't get utilized, it's just going to get taken down by a single person. I could theoretically use it myself and try to block off those south people or get somebody going north, but I value the truck to be more important, so I hop back in that, pull back the supply I had dumped just in case, and then immediately try to work on the next objective in line since we do a full cap the midpoint, and I just got a 2-spawn network up. Anyway, if you watch the map, the spawn is still active for nearly 2 minutes, and nobody spawns on it except for one blueberry who gets camped by the guy on the adjacent hill. If the friendly team took care of that single guy and actually started utilizing it, it could have been an excellent flank for the enemy spawn. Also, don't mind these barrel rolls. That
Okay.
wasn't a flip, it was a barrel
we're
roll
fine.
over a log pile. It's
Okay,
intentional.
I need a bandage though. That was
Cap, if you
It's
get
okay.
a fob on the
I've
east
got a
side,
heavy
I'll try
boot.
and focus on proxying the one that's on Fortress.
We're gonna stretch
come on,
quite a bit.
Uh-oh. Get up, shit, get up. Oh my God.
I'll move it. We have a rally, so don't freak out too much. So at this specific point, things are looking a little bit bad on both objectives. Sniffles wasn't able to make it in and get a consistent proxy and take the objective. And on defense, we just lost the hab I just built. It was never utilized. And we're down to a single fob versus a single fob engagement. It looks pretty obvious to me that the enemy spawn is somewhere to the east of the flag, presumably across the road. You may wonder why I chose to drive down that road if I thought that, and obviously that was just circumstantial. There was contact to my south, I needed to get speed immediately, and that road was my best bet for doing so. So even though we took contact, you can never really underestimate how easily you can sneak by some mediocre shooters if you have a really fast logi and you don't slam on the brakes the first time you take a shot. Anyway, from here I had to form my plan for how I'm going to deal with both of these situations. For defense, I'm thinking I'll use my commander asset and find out where the enemy hab is and airstrike it. That should allow my people to contest cap range a little bit longer. As you can see, they are starting to get neutralized and starting to get pushed back. For offense, well, the fob that I'm building is good for a stealth proxy on the east side, so I figure once I'm done calling in that airstrike, I will go with butt, and we can try to stealth proxy from above so that the west can make more progress. Now Sniffles makes a really good call here and starts taking himself and one other person to train to fob up. This is pretty standard procedure for any BHM squad. You have your infantry and your SL plus one separate, and what he's doing is preparing for the worst case scenario in which we lose the mid and he needs to spawn shift back onto the new defense and leapfrog over the mid. Unfortunately, he gets shot because there is still enemy contact at train, so we don't end up getting that fob up.
We go really
Sniffles,
fast.
you can stick there. I will easily resolve ammo before it's full cap with this hab kill.
Okay.
Now, in the entire beginning of the match, we actually had this objective surrounded by fobs in the same way that we do now. The first south fob was active for a long time, and we had a north and a south both working towards cap range and both working towards an enemy spawn. Now, you're going to see on the UAV here that the enemy spawn is directly on the flag, which really makes me start to wonder how, between the rush to train station and the single fob that the rest of the team is working off of, we haven't been able to neutralize it. This is compounded by the fact that when I built my south fob, it wasn't actually utilized to once again start to surround it, and it started to become very apparent to me that our team is going to have an absolutely shitty KD on the mid and that they are absolutely getting melted in the micro game. Now, this isn't really a problem when I have my commander asset. I always count on being on the receiving end of better shooters and having a bad KD and compensating for it with spawn gameplay, which is what I'm doing right now with the airstrike. Do you see my airstrike mark on the map? Because I don't, but I just called it in.
Oh, it's on mine entrance now.
It's at mine entrance. Cool. Thanks, game.
I got a logi here, Kyle.
Squad.
Okay, so squad just bugged out and my SU is not going to hit because I called it on Ammo Hill and
Hey,
it appeared
might
on
have
mine
seen our
entrance.
lobby.
So,
They didn't.
GG.
Nice.
I don't know, maybe it'll hit, we'll see. Nope, that's mine entrance. Cool. So, wow. Yeah, you heard me say GG, and that's because I'm fairly confident we just lost the game. We went from I'm going to easily secure the midpoint and you can afford to stay on offense and we'll not have a problem, to we just lost the match in a few seconds because the airstrike missed. To walk you through why I'm so confident this is basically GG, let me freeze frame the map here and explain my thought process. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the game, the enemy team has demonstrated that they can outshoot us on the midpoint for a significant amount of time, and that was while we had spawn advantages. Even when we had pretty decent spawn advantages, we really struggled to full cap, and then once we started losing them, it became something of a stalemate. Now by building the south spawn, I was able to temporarily give them another spawn advantage, but it was not utilized, and it just wasn't that fantastic even if it was utilized due to me building it while in combat. But I still had my airstrike, I could still win the spawn game. Once that managed to fail, we just end up in a situation where the enemy team now on the midpoint both has the KD advantage and the spawn advantage with a closer spawn to the mid. There is no way that I can foresee that going in our favor unless it is directly intervened in some way, whether I go in and take down the spawn or build another spawn. Whatever has to happen, something macro level has to happen to compensate for our team losing the micro. It cannot just be one fob versus one fob or we are toast. Now that means that we need to go cover our new defense objective, which is train, but Sniffles already tried that. The enemy team is already there. Whether it's in force or just a couple of guys remains to be determined, but they most likely have a spawn, and so I basically now have to consider that to be immediately capped after they full cap the mid. And now Sniffles actually does have to get to train, which is unfortunate because after he lost his truck there, I pretty much told him don't even worry about it, don't sweat it, I can get this mid easy. It gets worse because the fact that Sniffles doesn't have his truck means he has to grab it from main when it respawns, which means his only options for hitting train are from the east. Fool's Road is a linear map, and train station is directly on a map border, which means in order to actually use the type of spawn gameplay that we utilize in BHM, we have to go for very wide flanks. Sniffles doesn't have that luxury with the timing. He basically has to go directly in from the east and build an eastern fob, which means his only choice is to try to win a firefight to capture it back, which is something that our team has demonstrated it isn't really capable of doing. So right now with the truck I have a variety of options for things I can do. My initial instinct is to build mortars to compensate for what my SU just failed to do and actually take down that midpoint hab. But at this point it's pretty much too late. I can do that, but it's not really going to matter because they're immediately going to start neutralizing train station. So my second thought is, if I can get to train station, maybe I can build a western fob since I'm already on the north end of the map and I won't have to go all the way around the map to do that. Plus I have supplies in my truck. And a western hab there could be the turning point and could allow us to actually get in and deal with enemy contact without having to win a firefight, to simply stealth proxy whatever hab they have there, and at least secure train station. But once again, the timing just isn't there. It depends on when Sniffles arrives, it depends on if I can get there safely, and even if everything goes according to plan, we still have to find that fob and proxy it, and kill all the people who spawned on it. And ultimately, the likelihood of them full capping train is just too high. And in the end, I don't really have any choice but to try to go for mine entrance and cover our mercy, while allowing Sniffles to try to take the flag that we're going to lose, which is train station. I could technically build a mortar and work on it.
But more supply down south.
I have to choose some stuff. Okay, we're gonna go down south and build train.
Come on, I just marked
Supply on
mortar target. Can we get us over there?
There might be a lodge on the way.
I just used it and it bugged out. We have nothing for a while.
Cover that.
And they're on train. They're on train. Obviously this road has demonstrated itself to be very dangerous, but because I want to get to mine really damn quick, I'm just going to go for it, especially since the people spawning we now know are west across the road and distracted to the west. Unfortunately, that doesn't save us from friendlies.
Friendly shooting on us.
It'll be enemy soon. Oh my god, no, that is friendly.
Now.
That's friendly. Hey, why are you doing this to
Jesus
me?
Christ.
Alright.
I'm bleeding out. Hold up.
Sam.
You might as well gun yourself. Build here, I guess.
Now we have to build mine.
Good to go.
Best case, double newt. Worst case, I'm probably building for mine. I actually think double newt's fairly likely with them on that hab, but someone's gonna have to resolve train. Okay, I'm gonna quickly build on mine, we'll quickly RTB, and then we'll build a fob for train.
Up.
Sniffles might beat us to that part, but
Hey, look. What's this dead tiger doing here? Do you think they'll let Spicy and rush us?
Just get it
Commander, can you
spawnable.
put some orders at that fob you just created?
I'll have to grab supply first.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's not going to be a double nuke. So the blueberries are proxying the east fob. They might take it down, but they're more than likely too late. So I say this. We're going to need a defense on mine once train station falls. If you guys can start spawning here on this fob I'm building.
Боевую задачу выполнила. Курс на базу.
Back.
Once again, guys, we're going to need people to spawn mine entrance. So when you're pushed back to your mercy and you're looking at any opportunity for a comeback, you have to start thinking about tickets. First off, we captured the mid first, which meant we got a plus 20 boost for that, and when the enemy recaptured it, they have a plus 50 boost on us. I won't go through the math right now, but you get an advantage if you allow the enemy team to capture a mid before you capture it. Similarly, they're going to take train with a full cap, and that's another plus 50 for them in terms of ticket difference between the teams, which means they're going to be up 100 on tickets, plus some on KD. Also, I just hit a mine, so scratch 5 off that as well. Not only were we past the point of going for a ticket bleed type strategy and hunkering down anywhere, we've also demonstrated that we wouldn't have been able to pull that off in the first place. Even if we had that 20 ticket boost from the mid, we are so behind on KD, we probably would have lost the game if we didn't capture the next flag too. This means that in order for us to win the game, we have to hold mine entrance, full cap train station back, full cap the midpoint back, and likely be in position for the next flag in line. And all of this needs to be set up before we lose 100 tickets. So let's break that down one at a time here. First off, holding mine entrance. That's why I built a fob there and asked people to spawn there. Second of all, taking back train. Sniffles is going to work on that, and I would be working on that with him if I still had my truck. I'd be flanking around the north side of the map to attempt to build a western spawn. However, I just lost my truck, so let's put that on hold for now. Now for the next flag, the midpoint, we just traded spawns and we have a ton of people up there. Now it is possible that they still have a spawn up there that can push mine entrance, and that is why I am not trying to get the people who are technically on an outdated objective on the midpoint to push back to mine entrance and defend it from mine entrance. First off, because they are kind of pushing into a potential offense and they are kind of blocking spawns that could potentially threaten mine entrance. And second of all, because we're not going to win unless we also maintain control of that flag. It's technically lower on the priority list, given that we have other things to deal with before that's an option. But right now, I kind of like the stretch we have between the people spawning down here because it's their only choice holding cap range specifically, and the people pushing north who are both acting as a somewhat active defense for that flag and potentially in position to take back the mid should we take train. With all of this considered, obviously, my biggest priority is going to be making sure that we actually do full cap train, since everything else looks to be in somewhat decent position right now. Also, of course, Fortress has spawns still built from Sniffles and myself, so in the event that we do start this roll going, we could potentially get 4 flags back. Now this all starts with me getting a truck, and unfortunately we have a one-man logistics squad that's doing runs to the south fob. I've talked about this before, I don't really want to get too into it with this match, but please don't do one-man logistics. It does not help. That truck is always more valuable setting up additional spawns than it is doing supply runs to an individual spawn over and over with no potential for any flexibility by having a second person who can then place anything. I could steal this truck, but I choose not to because it's on that south fob and it's a little bit risky for me to actually get it out. It's going to take a long time for me to get it around the east side of the map. And I figure at this point that I'm pretty much going to be just as fast if I wait for mine to respawn at main as I am trying to get that one out of contact in a bad area. So what I do is I tell Squad 10, who was repeatedly asking me if I could build mortars for them, to try to snag that truck and get it back to mine entrance so that they can do that. This ends up being a mistake because, first of all, it brings one of the only people that was actually on cap range off of it, while the other people who were on cap range push north to go towards that forward defense I was talking about and are no longer actually watching the cap itself. And second of all, possibly due to hearing that in command chat, the one-man logistics squad that just lost a truck on the south fob immediately spawns main, grabs the truck that belonged to me that I wasn't paying any attention to, and tries to do the exact same fucking thing.
This man doesn't learn.
Oh, for fuck's sake, was that ours and I wasn't ready for it?
He's gonna hit a mine immediately.
I should have spawned in, I didn't see it on map. So now we're worse than ever because A, we don't have a truck to help out train, and B, we don't have anyone actually on mine watching for flanking attacks. So the only thing that we can do as the two-man is be the people holding mine and hope that the micro game is able to be won on train and we take that flag back. I could maybe try to bring our team back, but they're somewhat helpful on the mid and they probably won't listen.
Maybe we should spawn mine.
I was just thinking the same. Yeah, let's spawn mine.
Okay, talk to me in local.
Yes. Hi. Local.
Perfectly fine.
That's
Go,
enemy.
go, go.
That's
In the
enemy.
lobby.
That's an MRAP though.
It's contact. It's contact on mine entrance.
Immediately proxied.
Where was he? Up high?
No, front and rear entrance. East and west. There's two. MRAP's in here.
Yeah, they're shuffling.
Hey, squad 2, where's the rest of your squad at?
I got two. It's spawnable, but MRAP is watching.
Spawn.
There's one in the rafters. When you spawn, there's one in the rafters here. MRAP is also south. Fuck.
Oh, fuck. Well,
Mine's probably fucked. And boom, there goes the match. I can't be that upset that people walked off of defense because A, as I mentioned, they were pushing into potential contact. It was technically something you could consider to be an active defense even if there was poor awareness. But B, we could not just rely on taking back train. If we could, I would have tried in command desperately to get all of these people near the midpoint area to actually hold a solid defense. And then if they walked off, I could have blamed them. But as it stood, unless we immediately took back that mid 2, there was no chance of winning the game, so it was something where we had to stretch our priorities a little bit thin. It still would have been fantastic if the squad that just walked off the north still held it and prevented us from having to spawn in and do it, as we were only a 2-man. But in the end, I gambled. I figured, okay, Button, I can probably take it, but we were just a second too late. We spawned in, the MRAP was already there. By the time we realized what was happening, Butt was dead, and it was me against a 4-man Crow's MRAP. 2 of them were dismounted proxying. I killed them both. The 3rd one went up top. The 4th one was in the driver's seat. And of course, the moment the 3rd one killed me up top, the driver dismounted. They reproxied. They probably had a rally or something just outside because they start capping soon afterwards. They might have just gotten revives. And the flag is basically gone. I tried a skeleton defense. I threw it by a single kill. But whatever. It was what it was. The loss of mine entrance almost doesn't have an effect on the match because even though they do end up full capping it, we were down to 10 tickets before it happens, and we hadn't even neutralized the offense objective. And as icing on the cake, the 1-man logistics squad drives directly into the MRAP we marked and gets blown up with a second logi. I would have loved to see how this match would have gone if 8 did stay on mine and we were able to get our truck and we were able to counter that MRAP rush and potentially get a spawn around the other side of the offense objective. But it just didn't go that way, and it ends up being a very big loss. Similarly, I would have loved to see where the match went if the airstrike actually worked. It wasn't a slam dunk. At the time, I kind of made it sound like we were going from we had the victory to GG. But I mean, in the end, we wouldn't have gained any more tickets from it. We still would have had the plus 20 for the mid. We just would have had more time on offense and the ability to attempt to stealth it, as well as more time to build a better spawn network on the mid, depending on which one I chose to go do. And ultimately, whether or not that would have resulted in another flag capture is still up in the air, and we did need that flag capture in order to compensate for our team's KD. So although it wasn't a slam dunk, I still would have loved to see what happened if the game actually worked as intended, and the predictions were accurate, and we took out that point and held our mid a little bit longer, and could have tried for the rest of the match, instead of getting fucked over by a bug.
My blueberry just stopped digging the hab halfway through and ran into mine entrance. And I didn't even notice. That was amazing.
Good conclusion.
That's a point.
Oh shit. Jesus, we got annihilated. Hey.
325 loss. Now, given that the rest of the staging phase is just varying degrees of racial slurs, I'm going to pause it here. But I want to talk about this loss, because anytime I have a loss, I like to think about what went wrong and what could have been done better. Now, I've been meaning to show a loss on this channel for a while, but I haven't found quite the right one. For one, I want it to be a loss in which I was leading a infantry squad, and this one kind of qualifies as command. I didn't really have the power to have people spawning in places, like I said, but Sniffles was there, and Sniffles was basically making all of the same calls that I would have made, so I figured it was close enough in that regard. Now, this isn't the only loss I've had recently that has fit that criteria. I had a particularly bad game on a AAS layer of Fallujah where I got absolutely rolled, but unfortunately I didn't record most of it. And I have had a couple of games in recent memory on Talil, RAS, where I have lost, and they've been decent games to talk about, but there have been various errors with them. So for one reason or another, I couldn't really make them into match analysis videos. Which is unfortunate because both of those games really made me think and stop and reconsider my strategies and where I went wrong and what I could have done better, whereas in this one, I feel like it predominantly came down to A, I didn't lead infantry, which was the result of mostly mic bugs, and B, my airstrike didn't land where I thought my airstrike was going to land. Technically, you can say that I should have considered the possibility of that happening since it is a known bug, but I hadn't seen it since Commander first dropped and I thought it was fixed, so I didn't really think that was even a possibility. Going forward in the future, I will now know that it is, but even then it wouldn't have changed too much about what I had done, because the airstrike was something of a last resort. We had a great spawn advantage on the mid on game start, and once that spawn advantage started to get taken care of and the enemy started to wipe our south spawn, I reinstated it with my truck, and ultimately that was my first effort towards capturing the mid. The airstrike only came in when it proved that that wouldn't be sufficient. The enemy team was still able to maintain some control of the area. And pretty much regardless of whether I knew that the airstrike was going to work or I knew that there was only a chance it was going to work, I was still going to use it. The biggest change would have been what I called out to Sniffles about how he could maintain offense and didn't have to worry about train. But bear in mind that Sniffles already made a push for train. He already foresaw that there was possibility for conflict on the mid and tried to get there. The biggest issue was that he got shot out of the truck because of the amount of infantry that was still there. I'm not going to pick on Sniffles and say that that was the game-losing move there. I mean, technically he could have gone for a slightly safer approach, since there was contact there early game, but I think it was fairly reasonable of him to assume that everybody left there, especially since, in general, when you're losing both active objectives, when you're unable to take the offense and are losing the defense, it usually stands to reason that you are outnumbered, and if all of your people are on those current active objectives, it usually stands to reason that there aren't just scattered infantry on the enemy team out and about on outdated objectives. In this instance, the KD difference was big enough that that actually was the case. We were outnumbering them and still losing, but I feel like he made a fairly safe bet, and although it could potentially have been a little bit more cautious, I wouldn't really condemn him for it. And then of course, after he did that and I made my sustainability call out and I said you don't even have to worry about that, just stay on offense, now it became my problem, because if he would have immediately worked on resolving that, because he was aware that we were about to lose the mid, he still could have recovered from it. But with my assurance, we just left it be, and then that ended up costing us. When you look at a game loss like this, you really have to think objectively about the things that went wrong, because it's so easy to go Captain Hindsight and say, well, these are moves A, B, and C that you could have done to prevent this specific roll from happening. But you really have to consider that you don't have any of the information at the time, and any changes that you make to your playstyle have to have a positive effect on a majority of matches. For example, if we had somebody stay on train station absolutely, completely until we had fully capped the mid and made it fully sustainable, we were missing out on an opportunity to take a potentially undefended attack objective, and we were keeping people out of the fight on current objectives, thus giving us a numerical disadvantage. Yes, in this game, because we lost the mid anyway, it would have technically helped, but if you go out and do that for every game, in a majority of games, you're going to hurt your team rather than help them. And so, although there are lessons to be drawn from this game and there were mistakes made, there is nothing here that was so drastically wrong that I would completely change anything up if I were to play the layer again. I think it was a combination of bad luck and a team that really needed to be compensated for. A team that we only could have won with if everything went right at all of the right moments. Of course, that's not entirely fair to our team. They played active objectives for pretty much the entire match except for the game end there, and they were good in their fob building, specifically that north one on the midpoint early game. That was pretty crazy. These guys did play the objective, so I'm not trying to bash the SLs here. I'm just trying to say that the KD difference was so great that we needed several objective captures in order to compensate for it.